Have you ever had one of those truly awful mood days and immediately thought, ugh, my brain chemistry is just shot? Well, maybe, just maybe, you should have been pointing the finger at, I don't know, that dodgy hot dog you ate last week. Or maybe that month of takeout.
It's a really fundamental shift, isn't it, in how we think about mood. For decades, the public story around depression has been this neat, simple idea, a chemical imbalance.
Right, like a switch is flipped wrong.
Exactly, like it's just, a faulty wire or something that needs a quick fix, usually by popping a pill, an SSRI, to swap out the broken chemical part.
And while that sounds all neat and tidy and, well, scientific, this deep dive we're doing suggests something pretty disruptive. The evidence is actually pointing towards your depression, having maybe everything to do with what's going on in your gut, the environment, the chemistry down there.
And surprisingly little to do with some mysterious lack of serotonin floating around upstairs in your head. Yeah. We're really challenging a core belief here. So our mission today is to, quickly explore this gut-brain connection. We'll look at the vagus nerve, how it fits in, and show you why managing your mood might be less about brain management and, well, more about managing the tiny ecosystem living in your belly.
Okay, let's definitely unpack this.
Yeah.
Because we kind of have to start with the big one, right? The theory we've all been hearing about forever, the serotonin saga.
Right. And what's frankly compelling here is that the core idea that depressed people just don't have enough serotonin, it's actually never been scientifically proven.
Never.
Nope. In fact, some studies show people with clinical depression often have perfectly normal levels, sometimes even higher levels of serotonin in their system.
Higher, but
Right.
That doesn't make sense if the treatment is trying to boost it.
Exactly. If you've got plenty of the chemical treating you for a lack of it, well, it suggests a fundamental misunderstanding of what's actually going wrong.
Okay, hold on. This is where I need to pause. If depression isn't caused by low serotonin, but we know SSRIs do seem to help some people, what are those drugs actually doing?
That's the key question. SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, they do exactly what the name says. They inhibit or block the reuptake. Think of the synapse, that little gap between nerve cells. It's a communication point. Serotonin is the messenger molecule. After it delivers its message, there's normally this mechanism, like a little vacuum cleaner, that sucks the serotonin back up into the first cell to be reused or broken down, keeps things tidy.
And the SSRI basically jams that vacuum cleaner.
Precisely. It blocks that reuptake bump. So by blocking it, you're forcing the serotonin to just hang around in that gap for longer. Its concentration increases.
So the receiving nerve cell gets a louder, longer signal.
A much louder, more prolonged signal. You're essentially forcing the communication, making it shout.
Okay, but forcing a signal, shouting louder, that doesn't mean the original problem, whatever it is actually fixed.
Not at all.
And that leads right into this major pushback, this argument that the effect we see, especially in mild to moderate cases, might just be a placebo.
That is the controversial argument, yes. That maybe it's a kind of boosted placebo response. However, if it were just a placebo, that wouldn't really explain the very real, sometimes severe biological side effects people experience, right?
Wait, that's a really good point. If the main benefit is placebo, how do you explain the really serious downsides? We're talking about things like major sexual dysfunction, trouble with orgasm, zero libido.
Very common, unfortunately.
And emotional blunting, like not being able to feel real joy or even deep sadness.
That feeling of being kind of numb, yeah.
And sometimes, the sources say, the drugs can actually make the depression worse. That seems like a ridiculously high price for just, boosting morale.
Those side effects are kind of the smoking gun, aren't they? They confirm something profound is happening biologically. It shows the mechanism isn't just making you feel better, it's artificially manipulating a complex system.
A system that's connected to everything else.
Exactly. Connected to sex drive, emotional range, everything. Which is why maybe natural approaches that are more multifaceted sometimes seem to work better with fewer problems.
Like St. John's Wort, which the medical world often seems a bit iffy about.
St. John's Wort is a really interesting contrast. It does multiple things. Yes, it interacts with serotonin, but it also affects dopamine. And crucially, it acts as an anti-inflammatory, and it helps reduce cortisol levels.
Cortisol, the stress hormone.
The main stress hormone, yeah. When you're chronically stressed, cortisol is high, and that often messes with your gut and your mood. So St. John's Wort targets inflammation, stress hormones, It's looking at the bigger picture, not just one chemical signal.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
And then there's that whole suspicious timeline around tryptophan, the natural thing your body uses to make serotonin.
Ah, yes. The history there certainly makes you raise an eyebrow. Prozac, one of the first big SSRIs, came out in 1988. Then just 2 years later, 1990, there was this incident. A contaminated batch of tryptophan supplements caused serious side effects. So the FDA essentially pulled tryptophan supplements off the market for several years, banned them.
Okay. And when did they conveniently decide it was safe again and lift that ban?
Right around the time the patents for Prozac were expiring.
Huh. Funny that. It does make you wonder, doesn't it? About, the incentives. Patented chemical versus a natural amino acid.
It absolutely raises questions about, well, market forces and maybe suppressing competition. Tryptophan is just the raw building block. SSRIs are the tool that forces the processing of it.
Okay, so we've kind of established that the whole brain serotonin level thing is probably a red herring, or at least we've misunderstood it massively. Let's pivot then to where the real chemical factory seems to be.
Our gut.
Our gut. Our belly. What are our guts actually making down there that controls our mood?
Well, your gut microbiome, those trillions of bacteria, they're constantly churning out powerful neurochemicals. Your gut makes a huge chunk of your body's serotonin, for starters, but it also produces other critical stuff like oxytocin.
Oxytocin. Isn't that the love hormone?
Yeah.
Like for bonding, mother-baby stuff,
Yeah.
pregnancy?
That's what most people think of, yeah. Mother-baby bonding, inducing labor contractions. But oxytocin is also a really potent stress reducer. It helps fight depression. It's strongly anxiolytic, meaning it reduces anxiety.
And our gut microbes are making that and
Yeah.
sending it upstairs.
They are helping synthesize it, absolutely, and helping regulate its release and signaling.
So the gut's making the good mood stuff, the stress relief chemicals. But how does it talk to the command center, the brain? That's the vagus nerve, right? The superhighway.
Exactly. The vagus nerve, it's the longest, most complex cranial nerve we have. It really is the information superhighway linking the torso, your gut, heart, lungs to the brain. And here's the kicker, the fact that should really change how you think about your moods.
Uh-oh.
The information flow on this highway is overwhelmingly one way.
The famous 80-20 rule I've heard about.
That's the one. Roughly 80% of the signals travel from the gut up to the brain. Only about 20% go the other way, from the brain down.
Wait, 80%? Going up.
80%. So your brain, the supposed CEO of the whole operation, it's actually spending most of its time just monitoring,
Right.
listening to the massive stream of data flooding in from your digestive system.
That's wild. So the brain isn't the boss. It's more like the security guard watching the monitors, while the real action, the important stuff, is happening down on the factory floor.
That's a great analogy, actually, yeah.
Why does the gut need to send so much information up? What's it telling the brain?
Well, think about it from an evolutionary standpoint. Your gut is your front line. It's where you interact directly with the outside world through food. So the brain needs constant real-time updates. Is there inflammation down there? That could mean danger, infection.
Okay.
Are we absorbing nutrients properly? Is the ecosystem, the microbiome, balanced and happy? Or is it out of whack? The state of your microbiome basically dictates the mood report the brain gets.
So if the gut is inflamed or missing key microbes.
It sends up danger signals, distress calls via the vagus nerve, and the brain interprets persistent danger signals as, well, chronic anxiety or depression.
Wow. So this connection means that if your gut microbes are messed up, the depression you feel might just be a local issue, a symptom of bad communication from the gut, not necessarily a primary brain problem itself.
Precisely. And when researchers actually look at the gut microbiomes of people with clinical depression, they consistently find major issues, big gaps, missing species.
Like holes in the workforce.
Yeah, and often seriously reduced diversity overall. Plus, we know that gut inflammation, which can be caused by a poor diet, stress, bad microbes taking over that inflammation, directly messes with mood signaling. It basically short-circuits the positive signals.
Okay, this brings us to something incredibly common, almost every day, but with huge potential consequences for mental health. Antibiotics.
Yep.
The antibiotic apocalypse, as you put it.
Right. Everyone's been there. You get a nasty sinus infection, maybe Lyme disease from a tick bite.
Yeah.
You take a course of
It's a
antibiotics.
standard procedure.
You think, great, infection cleared. But one of the major side effects, one that's often not really mentioned, is the onset of depression, or making existing depression much worse.
Because the antibiotic is like a bomb. It's designed to kill bacteria, the bad guys causing the infection.
But it's usually broad spectrum. It doesn't know the difference between the pathogen making you sick and the incredibly complex, delicate microbial factory floor that's making your mood chemicals.
So it just wipes them all out, the good guys too.
Overnight, essentially, it can just decimate the beneficial bacteria, the ones making oxytocin, the ones calming the vagus nerve. So yeah, the infection might be gone, but you've effectively clear-cut your internal rainforest.
And we tend to think, oh, it'll just bounce back, my gut will heal. But the reality might be a bit more, well, depressing.
Often, especially with our modern low-fiber diets, those beneficial microbes don't just bounce back on their own, not fully. It's actually something seen in clinical practice. You ask people, when did this chronic depression or anxiety really kick in? And very often they'll trace it back to a period shortly after a strong course of antibiotics. The timing is just too frequent to be purely coincidence. You accidentally nuked the chemical factory, left a skeleton crew, and now management, the brain keeps getting these low-grade emergency reports, and that translates to chronic low mood or anxiety.
Okay, so if the problem is this damaged or missing microbial ecosystem, what can we actually do about it?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing the answer isn't just, eat more yogurt from the supermarket shelf.
Probably not enough, no. We likely need a more targeted approach. We need to cultivate specific, potent microbes known to have these beneficial effects. And one microbe that really stands out in the research for its profound neurological impact is Lactobacillus reuteri.
L. reuteri.
L. reuteri. Okay. Can you buy that?
You can, yeah. It's available in supplements. But the challenge is getting the potency needed for real therapeutic effect. The colony-forming units, or CFUs, in typical capsules might not be high enough to make a big difference.
Right. So this is where things get a bit unconventional. We leave the pharmacy and head into the kitchen. DIY science time. It does sound a bit mad, yeah. But there's documented success with this. To get the massive number of CFUs needed, the billions of active bacteria, you need to culture it yourself, grow it. The specific method involves using high-quality, ultra-pasteurized half and half.
Half and half, like for coffee.
Yep. And you use a starter culture of L. reuteri, put it in a yogurt maker, but here's the key. You let it ferment for a full 36 hours.
36 hours. Wow, that's some serious yogurt commitment. Why so long? What happens in that time?
That extended fermentation is critical. That's what allows the bacteria to multiply exponentially, reaching those huge therapeutic numbers. Commercial yogurts, they ferment for maybe 8, 10, 12 hours. You get bacteria, sure, but not the sheer density needed to really take root, influence the vagus nerve significantly, and ramp up production of things like oxytocin.
Okay, and the results people report from doing this 36-hour L. reuteri ritual, they're not subtle, are they?
Far from it. Anecdotes describe really profound changes, systemic changes, things like drastically better sleep. People report increased muscle tone.
Muscle tone from yogurt.
Yeah, because L. reuteri seems to promote stem cell production, which helps with tissue repair and growth.
Okay, weird but cool.
And significantly reduced anxiety. Less stress, but maybe the most amusing side effect is increased sociability.
Right. The story about the hugs.
Exactly. There's this great anecdote of a guy making and eating this yogurt, and his wife kept saying, "What is wrong with you? Why are you hugging me 5 times a day all of a sudden?"
Huh. That's amazing.
It seems the boost in positive neurochemicals, especially oxytocin, can literally make you feel more connected, more pro-social, less stressed in social situations.
That's honestly the best side effect I've ever heard. Forget drowsiness. Give me spontaneous affection generator.
It all comes back to context, though. Why do we need to do this crazy 36-hour culture? Because we've largely lost this microbe from our collective gut. L. reuteri is naturally abundant in mother's breast milk. It's meant to be one of the first colonizers, helping set up the infant's gut-brain communication. But with, declining breastfeeding rates over generations, plus the constant assault of antibiotics, we've kind of accidentally eliminated a really critical piece of our own stress regulation and social bonding system.
So we're literally trying to culture back something our modern lifestyle has wiped out.
In a way, yes. Yeah. We're trying to restore components essential for our well-being that we didn't even know we were losing.
Okay. So pulling this all together,
yeah.
What does this deep dive really tell us? The big takeaway seems to be that your mental state, your baseline mood, how you handle stress, maybe even your libido, and how huggy you feel, it's incredibly dependent on that chemical factory buzzing away in your belly. And the depression or anxiety you might feel. It isn't necessarily some mysterious brain failure. It could very well be a communication breakdown, traceable right back to inflammation or missing microbes in your gut.
Absolutely. And if that tiny ecosystem inside you is constantly sending signals up that vagus nerve superhighway,
Yeah.
influencing your mood, your sleep, your stress response, even how sociable you are, it makes you ask a pretty profound question, doesn't it?
Which is,
How much of what you think of as your personality, your quirks, whether you're introverted or extroverted, your general outlook, how much of that is actually being dictated by the state of your microbiome?
wow, it's a lot to
Yeah.
think about. Maybe that gut feeling you sometimes get isn't just intuition. Maybe it's your entire mood system laying down the law.